Welcome, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights recap episode. I haven't done that for a couple months. Episodes 1251 up through 12, this being episode 1275. Thanks, sponsors. Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication, ComC.com, Burbank Sports Cards, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Heritage Auctions, Hugs and Scott Auctions, Topps, Upper Deck, and Panini. So start with 1251, outtakes from Hobby Hotline. A number of people comment on this. When I do outtakes, when I edit or abridge, some of that I do by AI, if you've read about that. AI now gives me an easy way to get summaries of the episodes, and I post that in my episode summaries so you can see what's in there. That's helpful for some of these listener question episodes and outtake episodes that don't have a title that suggests one topic for the whole 12 minutes or whatever it is. But the AI is imprecise, and the editing software that I use that's AI driven also can kind of chop words off or make awkward transitions. So I apologize for that, but I think there's more good than bad there, but it's certainly imprecise and not great quality. Maybe the tools will improve, or maybe I'll improve, but my desire is to get it out there. And I hope you'll indulge me wanting to do this with getting things out with less friction in terms of the 1252, the 10 listener questions, grouping 10 of them, and you can look at the summary there and it'll tell you what was discussed. I'd have to look it up. I can't remember because I've done now hundreds of listener questions, so I don't remember which one is where. 1253, the Hostess episode for Hostess Cupcake cards that Rich and I did, that was an afterthought. Rich and I were just saying, hey, we haven't done a set or a type of card lately. And I really thought that would be something we'd put aside for a rainy day because it was a timeless thing. But I didn't realize I came back from the National pretty tired. And so we let a rip on that, and a lot of people liked it. Rich and I are going to be doing some more episodes. We've got something scheduled for next week to sit down and we just accumulate our topics. 1254 was the Cleveland National Retrospective. That was done when it was fresh. I'm not sure that's completely timeless, but I had a very positive experience there. I thought it was great, except for the negatives, which were already brought out. But the new Three Amigos did a lot of things right. 1255 was the listener questions, all assembled based on tributes that I had done. That seems to be an easier way. If I accumulate the questions and group them, and if you're interested in that topic, you can listen to that. So I actually prefer that when it's random listener questions. I like getting on a roll. Just like later on, there's the Rushmore listener questions. People have different aspects of that they want to ask about. 1074, and I'm doing this in chronological order. That was not an audio podcast, but the thousands numbers are videos that I just post straight to YouTube. YouTube is pretty much an afterthought for me. I don't market heavily there at all. But if it's video, that's where it's going to go. So this was on the USA Baseball Stars and Stripes. I'm trying to inject, when I do box reveals or product discussions, I like to put another topic in there. I was getting into the topic of auditing and audit. How do you know that boxes are loaded, or how would you do that? So I've embedded some of that in some of these episodes. If you are on YouTube, you could dig into some of the videos. Like I say, they're numbered from 1,000 to 10 intentionally. 1075, along that same vein, was my Caitlin Clark box reveal that I got from Panini. And I've been seeing those cards in the dollar box. Caitlin Clark is, I think, the real deal. Having a whole set of her risks overexposure, at least of the base cards, but the good cards, people seem to be really soaking them up. 1256 was grading consistency, not the consistency of grading as much as how do you grade consistency. And if you're requiring perfection and expecting perfection, that if you send the same card in 10 times and you get the same thing, that's possible. But if you're off by a half point on one or two of them, I don't have a big problem with that. So that was my soapbox to just say that you want reasonable consistency. If something comes back an 8 and you resubmit it to get a 9 and it comes back a 4, that means the person or the company that evaluated as an 8 missed something that either was on the card or got on the card, a ding, corner damage, a crease, something like that. 1257 was Not All Fans Will Collect. I've had an annual dinner for many years of baseball fans. We do it right before the All-Star game, and great discussion about baseball, which for many of us was our first love. So a lot of the guys are older, but there are a few younger guys here. And I just threw it out there. I said, I'm going to turn on the recorder. Some of you guys couldn't be bigger fans of baseball, but you don't collect baseball cards, what would it take? People like that, and it was instructive for me because not everybody's going to be a collector. There's a correlation there, but it's not perfect. 1258 was the Mount Rushmore listener questions. People like to give opinions on that, and it suggests with Rushmore's, you really got 4 spots. I was just talking to Mike Fruitman, and he said, what about Alan Nars? Why wouldn't he be on the... And I said, he'd be on the Rushmore for LCSs, the amazing representative for Topps with his high energy force. But when you talk about Rushmore, you're limited to 4. It avoids the problem of the Hall of Fame where you're so diluted. So one big Hall of Fame, but if it was Mount Rushmore, it'd be Babe Ruth and 3 others if it was for the players. 1258A was the audio of the Connor Bedard collection. And that's one that, for whatever reason, I decided just to do an audio because all the cards are Connor Bedard, showing them on camera. I think people have already done that. 1259 was coming back from the National, and my 10 suggestions for being a good wingman, or wingmen plural, what you would do. One of the main things that came up is you need to shoot straight. A good wingman doesn't tell the person just let them get a pass if they're doing something wrong. You need to be truthful, help your person be the best they can be. Driven partly because Rich was not at the National, but Brad and Gabe, and I've had other guys over the years that have just really been a blessing to know that somebody's got your back, or saying, hey, this person's looking for you, or can you go over here for a while? And so that's been great. So just 10 suggestions. 1260 was Breaking Bad. I go on the treadmill pretty much every morning, and it's 13 years of Breaking Bad plus Better Call Saul. I had just finished, and I thought, breaking is not bad. But breaking is like chemistry, like the premise of the show, that you take a bunch of elements and you stir them up and manufacture them, and the next thing you know, they're worth a lot more. But then there's certain people that get the product and they're very disappointed, or they're put in jail, or like drugs. There's an addictive element to breaking and to the hobby that you do not want to let it get out of control. There's so many characters in the TV show that just got out of control. So don't get out of control. 1261 was the 10 listener questions. Check into the summary in the audio podcast. It'll tell you some of the questions there in case you want to be selective. 1262 was titled Video Listener Questions. That's referring really to the videos, and that's mainly my card wall. There's more coming. I've got another big group of cards probably going to be returning from BGS this month sometime, and when I get them all sorted out and merged in with my wall, I will upgrade my wall and do some more panels. So you can look forward to that probably later this month. 1263 and 64 were questions from Chris Burak. You just have to dig in. He said, do you really want to interview me? I'm a regular guy. I said, I love talking to regular guys. I realized that when we were doing the company, we really did not give individual responses to individuals. We gave more of a corporate response to individuals, for example, Readers Write, and we did individual responses to corporates. So corporate response to individuals, individual response to corporates, and that's how we kept our sanity. We got an awful lot of questions, and we dealt with them on Readers Write, but if we had a problem with a dealer, we were on the phone with him and working it out. We didn't say, hey, find out at the end of the month. 1076 was a video with the Contender's Optic. You can read about that. 1264A, not going to make a big deal about that, but it's a tribute to my mom. When it's a suffix like an A, that's usually something I inserted in, probably on a Saturday, just something where I'm just can get alone and figure out what I want to say. Maybe that was Sunday because the memorial service was on a Saturday, but just trying to remember my mom and give some sports card insights. 1265, 6, and 7 were all the 2-hour conversation I had with Ryan and Dave and Steve, Ryan Jessup, Dave Zenzel, and Steve Taft about the Star Company, and they are very passionate, and I do not agree with them in many respects, but I totally respect their passion. But I want to make sure they know what the context was back at the time. I think Steve understands that, but he was very much in the Star camp from the beginning, which is nothing wrong with that. And then 1268, after I had the weekend to think about it, I thought there were a bunch of things I didn't say that in the back and forth of 2 hours, we were interrupting each other in a, I think, reasonable way to make sure we were being understood. So I just did my own episode to throw it out there because I knew I was going to be talking to him. And I thought, let me just get it out there. And it was mainly about the nature of the license that Star Company had. They had a very unusual type of license, let's put it that way. I don't know if this is the final word, but the Star Company cards are scorching hot now. And it's not because of me or in spite of me. It's just those cards they have their day in the sun right now. 1077 was the Panini Boys of Summer box reveal. Again, small box, 1 pack. You can do that on a video. My video is a little bit shaky. They had me with Clemente on the box. 1269, Terry's Sales Dilemmas. Terry wanted to be anonymous, but I knew who it was. He could have just said he was Terry from where he was from. It's a little bit of background I knew. He had a great collection. One thing that didn't come out is he had no animosity about selling a bunch of his stuff way too soon. Some of the stuff that he sold decades ago was just awesome. Again, no hard feelings. He's had a good life, but he's contemplating how he can deal with the transition of getting the cards into the hands of somebody else. 1078 was the video. I call it the ordinal break. And that's where I was laying this out there of if you were breaking, and instead of breaking by team, if you just said, well, how much would I pay for the best card in the break, the second best card, third best card? So the order of, and I want first pick, and I'm willing to pay big. And I'm the kind of guy that I would take the leftovers. I'd rather buy a collection than a card, or at least that's pretty much always the way it was. 1270 and 72 were questions from Greg Miller, Midlife Sports Cards. Really enjoyed that. He's a YouTuber. I will be on his show pretty soon. He has good questions, and I like the way he does it. So thanks, Greg, for doing that. 1271 is outtakes from Hobby Hotline. Again, check the summary on that. 1273 was the Hobby Career Inquiries with Greg Sobocinski. He had applied to ComC for a job that it seemed like he'd be a good candidate for. He hadn't heard, and I don't think he was looking for me to fix it for him, but just to walk through, is there any reaction I have? And so I thought he had a strong resume. If you have a passion for this industry and you're sharp, I think there are jobs out there, and so he may get one. So we'll see. 1274, lastly here was the Upper Deck, the hockey breaks. But embedded in there, before you dismiss episodes by the title, there's a little story in there about how I did not... When I've lost cards by a coin flip, this was by agreement that a guy said, you get all these cards and I just want this one card. And it was a 52 Topps Mantle. So I willingly agreed. At the time, I think the value of all the non-Mantle cards then was greater, but now it's not looking like a good deal for me. But I lost no sleep over it. A good deal at the time. And then later, I did have a 52 Topps Mantle. So I do have a complete set, and it's a great set. So happy ending for that. Thanks for hanging with me. This is episode 1275. Finished recap for these last 25 episodes. Thanks again. See you soon. The man in the house of cards.